Hello everyone. Today's lesson is 2.8, Rewrite Equations and Formulas. Today you're going to learn how to rewrite an equation or a formula for a specified variable and write equations so that y is a function of x. And all that means is sometimes you'll have an equation where the x and y are scrambled around, but we typically want our functions to be written like y equals. So the objective here is going to be to get y on one side of the equation and everything else on the other side. And typically it will be a linear equation, and you'll write it in the form y equals mx plus b to prepare for Unit 3 when we start writing equations of lines and doing some graphing. Okay, then also some equations where you might want to solve for a different variable or for formulas that you might use in the real world or in science class. So let's look at a few examples. So number 1, solve ax plus b equals c for x. All right, so we're going to solve for x here. So we want to get x by itself, everything else on the other side. So typically here, the first thing you would do would be to move this constant over b. So a, b, and c are just numbers, and b is a constant. So we're going to subtract b on both sides. So you'll have ax equals c minus b. You just write it c minus b. Okay, and then to get x by itself, you'll divide both sides by a. Now, when you write this, the a's will cancel out. You want to put c minus b in parentheses. That way, like if you're doing it in your calculator, you'll make sure that both the quantity c minus b is being divided by a, not just b. Because sometimes on the calculator, let's see, maybe I can pull it up here. For example, if you just type in 7 minus 2 divided by 5, see how just the 2 is being divided by 5. But we want the whole quantity, 7 minus 2, to be divided by 5. So you'll have to put the numerator in parentheses if it has more than one thing in it. Right? Or you can also use your fraction button, alpha, and then the button next to it, or alpha y equals 7 minus 2, and that way you wouldn't need parentheses because the calculator does the order of operations for you when it's in the fraction mode. Okay, so that would be the answer to that equation. Number 2. So this is the exact same problem. It's just that instead of a, b, and c, you have 2, 5, and 11. So we'll subtract 5. So 2x equals 11 minus 5. We could just go ahead and write it out as 6. Divide by 2 on both sides, x equals 3. Okay, so pretty easy. Let's look at some more complicated examples. So here we have 12 minus 5x equals negative 3, and we want to solve for x. So we want to move over the constant, which would be 12. Now 12 is positive because the negative sign goes with the 5x. So to get the 12 on the other side, we're going to subtract it. Okay, so you have negative 3 minus 12, which some of you might like to think about it as negative 3 plus negative 12, which would be negative 15. A lot of you are going to want to put negative 9 or 9. It's negative 15. You have to add them together if you have two negatives. And then on the other side, we have negative 5x. The other thing people make mistakes of is they forget about the negative sign in front of the term that they're carrying down. Don't forget it. It's very important. And then divide by negative 5. And then this is another place where people forget their negatives. Okay, divide by negative 5, not just 5. So negative 15 divided by negative 5. Negatives cancel out. And you get positive 3. Okay, it's not that hard if you just remember to carry your negative signs through the problem. All right, number 4. So x is on both sides of the equation, so we're going to move the smaller x. So subtract 6x on both sides. So you have 5x equals 20, so x is 4. That one wasn't too bad. All right. Now it says write the equation so that y is a function of x. Okay, so is means equals. So we're just saying that y equals x. We want y on one side and everything else on the other side. All right, so here we're trying to solve for y. So what we're going to do first is move over the 3x term onto the side. Minus 3x minus 3x. So 2y equals 8 minus 3x. But what I want you to start getting into the habit of is writing the x term first. So we'll have negative 3x come first, and then plus 8. That way it's in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, and then we divide the 2. Now we can do it like we did in the first example where we just divide the whole thing by 2. But another thing I want you to get used to is dividing each term instead by 2. So divide this term by 2, divide this term by 2, and divide this term by 2. So you write it as y equals, and then this negative 3 over 2, we're going to pull it out as a fraction, negative 3/2 x, and then that can't be reduced, so we'll just leave it like that, and then plus 8 over 2 is 4. So then that's what your equation would look like, as y equals a function of x in y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form. All right, let's do another example. So here we're going to add the 2x term over. So we'll write 3y equals, we write the x term first, so 2x and then plus 6. And then divide each term by 3. So then you'll have y equals, pull out the 2/3 as a fraction, 2/3 x. And then the x isn't in the numerator or the denominator, it's just multiplied by 2/3. And you don't have to use the multiplication symbol, you just write 2/3 x plus 2. All right, number 3. So same thing. So we'll subtract the 5x over. And then careful, because you have negative 7y. So negative 7y equals, we write the negative 5x first, and then plus the constant. And then we're dividing by negative 7. Divide everything by negative 7, divide by negative 7, divide by negative 7. So we have y equals negative 7 over, or negative 5 over negative 7 becomes just positive 5/7 x, and then 14 divided by negative 7. The negative sign here, since you have one negative, it stays, and you can just pull it out as a minus sign. So minus 14 over 7 is 2. So this negative here, if you have one negative, then it becomes just subtraction. All right, and then one more of these examples. So for this one's interesting because the x is already on the other side, but you have a 4 here. So we'll move the 4 over by subtracting it. Now we're going to subtract it from the 22 since that's the other constant term. So we have negative 10y equals 18 minus 6x. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and swap the 6x and negative 6x and the 18. So negative 10y is negative 6x plus 18. Now divide by negative 10. And then it looks like we're going to have our fractions that we'll have to reduce. So y equals, 2 negatives make a positive, 6 over 10 simplifies to what, 3/5? So 3/5 x, and then 18 over negative 10, negative can come up as a minus sign. 18 over 10 can reduce to 9 over 5, 9/5. And then just leave it like that. You don't have to write this as a mixed number. It can stay improper like that. Also, for your slope, or the number that's being multiplied by x. Always leave it as a fraction. That's going to be important when we are learning how to graph, because this number is the slope and it represents the rise over run. Okay, so we're going to use this number in fraction form in the next couple chapters. All right, so now we have a few word problems. So one is the area of a triangle is given by the formula area equals 1/2 base times height, where b is the base and h is the height. Now careful, h is the height that goes from the vertex and then perpendicular down. So for example, this part is not h. This part is h. So this would be the slant height, which is something totally different that you use in other instances. So whenever you're working with the height, you want the vertical height. Okay. So solve the formula for height. Okay, well, let's copy down the formula. All right, so here's what we're going to do. So here's h. We want the 1/2 and the b to come over on this side. So the first thing we're going to do is move this fraction. So move the coefficient. So what we could do is divide by 1/2, but what might be easier is multiplying by the reciprocal, which would be 2/1, or just 2. So multiply both sides by 2. So we have 2a equals, and then 1/2 and 2/1 cancel because they're reciprocals, equals bh. And then just divide by b. So you have h equals, and then you're going to want to put 2a in parentheses like we talked about at the beginning. So 2a over b. That would be your formula solved for h. And then use the new rewritten formula to find the height of the triangle, which has an area of 64.4 square meters. All right, so we can plug in the area and the base, which was 14. So height equals parentheses 2 times 64.4 over 14. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in my calculator. So parentheses are important. 2 times 64.4, close parentheses, divided by 14. And that gives us 9.2. 9.2 meters for the height. Okay, number 2. The perimeter of a rectangle is given by the formula. Perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, right? You have a rectangle. Here's the length and the length, and here's the width and the width. So you have 2w's plus 2L's. Solve the formula for the width. All right, so if we're solving for width, then we need to move the 2L over. So minus 2L. So P minus 2L equals 2W. And then next, divide everything by 2. So you have, now P over 2, you can think about it as 1P over 2, which turns into 1/2. Minus 2 over 2 is 1. Oh, I forgot about the P, sorry, 1/2 P. So then these cancel out and you just have minus L and then equals W. So 1/2 P minus L. And then use the rewritten formula to find the width of the rectangle with a perimeter of 19.2 feet and a length of 7.2 feet. Okay, so let's just plug in what we know. So width equals 1/2 times 19.2 minus 7.2. So let's go ahead and type that in. 1/2 is also 0.5 times 19.2, and then minus 7.2. It gives us 2.4. 2.4 feet. Okay, and Next example. The formula that relates degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit is this, and we've talked about this formula before. Now we're going to find the degrees Fahrenheit when the degrees Celsius is 24. Now the first thing we're going to do is actually learn how to rearrange this formula for F. So C equals 5/9 times F minus 32. So one thing you might be tempted to do is distribute the 5/9. However, F and 32 don't go easily into 5/9. So instead, what we're going to do is multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply by 9/5 on both sides. So that would give us 9/5 C on the left. The fractions here would cancel, and you just have F minus 32. And then add 32 on both sides. Okay, you should know how to do this, okay? This is not that tricky. You just have to remember to multiply by the reciprocal and then add the 32 over. You don't have to have the original equation memorized, but if given the original equation, you should be able to convert it so that it's F equals. So we have F equals 9/5 C plus 32. Okay, so now that we have the formula rearranged for F, we can answer the question, which says define Fahrenheit when Celsius is 24. So F equals 9/5 times 24 plus 32. So here's how I would type this into my calculator the easiest way. So 9/5, you can just do 9 divided by 5. You don't have to put it use the fraction button, times 32, and then not 32, I'm sorry, 24. And then plus 32. 75.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and then we have one more example. Area of a circula, which is this, is A equals 4 pi pw, where p is the distance from the center to the second circle or the inside circle, and then w is the width of these little parts here. Solve for p, and then find p when the area is 905 square feet and the width is 9 feet. So we have A equals 4 pi pw. Okay, so in order to do this, we have p here. P is being multiplied by 4 pi and w. So in order to get p by itself, we have to do the opposite of multiplying by 4 pi w, which is divide by 4 pi w. So it might seem a little strange. We're going to multiply by 4 pi w, 4 pi w. So now we'll have p equals area over, and then put the denominator in parentheses since it involves more than one term or more than one number or variable, 4 pi w. So that would be the formula, and then let's plug in what they asked us to. So 905 over parentheses 4 pi times 9 for the width. Okay, so here's how we would type this in your calculator. You can use your fraction button, or you can just write 905 divided by parentheses 4. The pi button is right here above the arrow. So second, and then caret symbol, and then times 9, or just type 9, close the parentheses, enter. 8.0019, so you can just write 8 feet. All right, so that is the end of this lesson. You will get some more practice tomorrow when you do your edge elastic. Have a great day.